Welcome, evolutionaries, to episode 19, and I have some stellar news for you. What Canada has launched a new Canadian Greener Homes Grant. This is phenomenal. I have a very special guest today, and his name is Daniel. He is from Power Tech Solar, and I'm representing myself from Evolve Green Solar. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, everyone.
So, I when I saw this come out, I didn't actually know they were going to do a grant. Did you?
No, I didn't realize this was coming. I heard there was a loan program coming, which I think may have even a bigger impact than the grant itself, depending on the specifics of it. But we were bracing for a wide uptake in renewables for homes, hopefully, this month or next month. So.
I agree. Well, it was a part of the whole election promise. They talked about that $40,000 interest-free loan for primary residences going through CMHC, up to $40,000, which is phenomenal. You buy an older home and it needs insulation, it needs new windows, and once you do that stuff, solar is now feasible and should be done. It's a part of the equation.
I agree. Yeah.
I believe even with the solar too, you can incorporate the upgraded electrical. I mean, I'm thinking about some of those older homes that are still knob and tube in Winnipeg, and fair amount of electrical work needs to be done. You can always incorporate some of these other things in there to make them more efficient.
Definitely, you can. Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see what the specifics are on that loan program. Hopefully the amortization period of the loan allows for a financial return on investment for somebody looking to do solar. The longer they stretch that zero interest loan, the lower the payments get, and the more savings you can realize from installing solar. So we're looking to see if that's a 15 or 20-year amortization period. It could very well make the solar cash positive from day one, which would be a wonderful thing for them to introduce, and would create just a huge amount of economic, very smart program. I mean, by taking advantage of a very low interest rate and passing on a zero interest rate loan, they can create all sorts of money in taxes and generate all sorts of revenue right back to the government. So,
but they're finally investing in Canadians.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about this, even the grant, when you think about the totality of the numbers involved here, I mean, they're taking it probably from that carbon tax money, and they're giving it right back to the people to inject into the economy, because every single community with this grant and with the no interest loan is going to be impacted. Every single community in Canada. This is totally exciting. This is kickstarting people who do windows, people who do siding, people who do insulation, people who do geothermal, heat pumps, solar thermal, solar on the house. So many. I am so excited that it was such a multi-phase platform, that it would encompass so many industries. I happen to be in solar thermal and solar and battery storage. And did you want to just talk about what your company does, Daniel?
Yeah, so I mean, we're an electrical and a solar company. So we do construction electrical work, and we do solar installation work, very similar to what you do as well, and a lot of stuff with EV charging as well. So we do a fair bit of that. So we're an electrical company with a green focus.
I'm getting a lot of requests for those EV chargers. Are you as well?
Tons, yes. Yeah.
And also they want solar to match it, so they offset their car. That's what I'm finding.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure you know this, with the solar industry, there's a lot of people that want a lot of things that are, possible, but perhaps unrealistic based on, financial circumstances. And so you get a lot of inquiries about, hey, can I power my car off solar panels? I mean, you could, but you could also.
Well, I liken it to more of a buffer. Okay, so we're just going to put it into your main system. Let's say your goal is to offset 3,000 watts a day for the charger. I'm using a small number. It's probably closer to 10. But if we're just talking about the number, we can do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're just not going direct. We're buffering through the whole system. I mean, so if you want to buy a hot tub that goes outside and it's going to suck $50 in energy a month, and you want to offset over the course of the year, we can just look at the raw number of what it consumes and build a system. I mean, it's just ultimately going into the main panel. So
for sure, yeah, it definitely does add a a bit of a premium to the cost of the charger install. So
correct.
Not always what the client's expecting, because I mean, usually when you get an EV, you want to realize some savings right away. So you put in a charger at home and you don't pay for gas anymore. I mean, as soon as you put in the solar, not that it's a bad idea, because it's a great idea to put in solar with it, but all of a sudden you're adding a fair bit of upfront cost to prepay for that energy, right? So a great thing to do for the climate, and and again for your pocketbook over the long run, but you're prepaying for 30 years worth of your fuel, let's say. So it's like you bought the car and now you're prepaying 30 years worth of gas if you put the solar on. So again, the price of the electricity is never going to be cheaper than it is right now. So you're locking in at a pretty low rate, but you are prepaying 30 years of gas. So
but for a typical installation for a solar system, it's around 7 cents a kilowatt. You're already paying almost 10 cents a kilowatt with taxes.
Yeah.
To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you're paying for the infrastructure up front, but you can write off a portion of that. Like if you sold 20% of that to hydro over the course of the first 12 months, that 20% is then a write-off. It's your commercial entity side of what you did. You produced something and you sold something, and you can show that. So, I mean, people don't always realize all the different savings involved with your solar system. So that's something to just be very clear on, is you should always know all the potential, how you're going to get your money back from your solar system.
Oh yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. I have solar panels and an EV, so I'm doing exactly that. So
I don't have an EV because I'm really far out in the country, and a lot of people say that's a cop out, but it's not true. We don't have any chargers out this way. Number one,
they're coming. They're coming.
I know they're coming. We're definitely actively promoting this to gas stations, especially to have fast charging systems for EVs, and they're doing it. Absolutely. Deacon's Corner, I think that's a Petrocan over there. They've got a nice setup over there. I know even Tesla's been down through Brandon and all of those places. So, we're seeing them popping up all over the place. So it's becoming more and more doable. From my perspective, I have got solar at home. I've got direct grid tie, and then I've got off-grid solar with battery backup. I have two separated completely systems, and that's only because when I first built this home in 2012, I was off-grid for the first year waiting for hydro to go in. It took them that long to put it in.
Yeah. So that's brave. I enjoy my creature comforts a little too much to be off grid for a year, but
it's a 2,000 square foot log home, and I had to learn with a pellet stove and a wood stove how to balance the heat. And I think when we got it to a nice consistent 19 degrees Celsius in the house in January, I think we were pretty happy with ourselves, because we were just direct urbanites that had never really lit a fire in our life. So at the point when we did that, so we had a long way to go. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, that's
there's definitely technique.
It's a different way of living. I think to live off grid, you have to be, you definitely have to be prepared to sacrifice some of the creature comforts that you would otherwise have available to you, for a grid connected home. Not to say that it's not a doable endeavor, and I mean, as we've seen a lot of people.
It's really, it's really become way more doable, because that's one interesting point, and that's where I was leading to with this greener with this Canadian Greener Energy grant, it is actually applicable to those off-grid homes as well. So those people will also be able to apply, and they should apply for the grant. It's $5,000 grant and $600 for your energy advisor. So it really does make a lot of sense if you are doing something in that line. For our off-grid homes, though, what's interesting is they're becoming way more stabilized because they're using multiple renewable energies in order to achieve. And they're building their homes differently these days too, right? So I'm seeing a lot more ICF homes, aren't you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, if you can, eliminate any exterior wall penetrations, eliminate windows on the north side of the home. There's a ton of things you can do to create basically a passive home that you could heat with a candle.
Absolutely.
And then you look at adding, your heat source and your electrical source once you've done everything to make the home as efficient as possible. I mean, then living off grid becomes, something you can realize. Nevertheless, again, I mean, there are still, financial limitations to what you would likely be doing. And I'm sure people have done it, but, like when you're talking about, having a swimming pool and a hot tub and like some of the, more energy intensive things, it becomes difficult to do that.
Well, swimming pools can be rather easy. I mean, you can heat those a lot of different ways.
Sure,
hot tubs, not so much. I mean, now you're getting into really invasive stuff in order to do it if it's outside.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you're going to be off grid, you know what? Drain the hot tub for the winter. Really makes most sense. And because if you have a critical breakdown, even for those grid tie people, if you have a critical breakdown in your hot tub outside, you've got a limited amount of time to respond to it. I've had it happen to me. My hot tub is now in its own dedicated room inside. So just saying. And that way it can go cold if I want it to. If I just want to stop running it for a while, I can do that. I just unplug and we're done. So, it's always important to fortify these types of things that can have critical failures. I do see a lot more clients doing battery backup for their hot tubs these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as long as you're not planning on backing it up indefinitely, it's something you can do.
No, they're looking at, they'll go for their average outage time, which will be like, 2 or 4 hours if it's city. It can be longer for some of our country people, depending on what type of outages they've been having. Right. Because there are anomalous events, but then there is also typical events, right? So we like to look at the typical event, not the anomalous event in most cases, because that's going to give you the best design.
Yeah, I mean, trying to design a battery backup for that 5-day outage is in the dead of winter is going to be difficult, and there's a certain point at which a natural gas generator would be, your only option. I think that's why a lot of farmers have that, tractor that can come up and plug in the tractor with the generator on it that they plug in and backfeed.
I am from the southeast. We had the Niverville line blow up, and we were without gas for a week. Actually,
and there you go, and then maybe you need a propane generator.
My point being is there can be a catastrophe on all fronts, but having something that can give you, I like the backups with some solar attached to it, so it's replenishing itself somewhat if there is an extended power outage. You may not have full, but you know what? You have some, and that's some more than anybody else. Yep. But finding another way to heat your home, I think, is pivotal. I don't think you should do that electrically speaking. I think you should always have a backup of some degree for your heat source and your water source. And if you're typically in a flood zone and you have a basement with a sump pump, back it up. Because if your basement fills within 2 minutes of not having it running, you really need to have a backup on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and those are pretty common products too. The sump pump backups, getting something, a small inverter with a few batteries to back up your sump.
It doesn't take much for some of those. Absolutely, I agree with you. Just to give you peace of mind. I lived in a house out by Niverville where It literally did that. If the sump pump went, you had an hour.
Yeah.
And you know when it went on us? 7:30 in the morning, Sunday.
Yeah. So it's hard to find a pump at that time of day.
Yeah. So having a few hours leeway is definitely your friend when it comes to a sump pump. In my case though, I went on to build 2 houses without basements at all because I would never put myself in that kind of a position again. It was so frustrating living in a situation where this pump, if it went out at the wrong time of year, we were screwed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of houses that still don't have sump pumps installed in them, so it's
True.
City of Winnipeg did a program a few years back where they were giving homeowners rebates to install sump pumps because of the issues they were having with sewer backups. So.
I grew up in one of those homes right on Lila Avenue in the West Kildonan, and that was all built on top of a marsh.
Yeah.
So all the basements would cave in over time and fill up with water easily. It was terrible. All we had for protection was a sewer ball.
Well, yeah.
That's not much.
No, it's not. No.
So I don't know. I see this as being this new grant as being a wonderful way to restart the economy and get people back working and save some of these companies that have been teetering on the edge with this pandemic. I really think this was a good move on the government's part.
Yeah.
I like the provincials have stepped up as well for Manitoba and given grants to help tide over companies as well. So they've done a great job that way to kind of keep people. I mean, it didn't keep jobs. It wasn't enough for that, but it was trying to keep those companies idling so that they could come back when the time was right, is what I felt.
Yeah. No, I think, the government's doing exactly what they said they would do, which was, promote a green economy with the recovery. And I mean, this does exactly that, right? Like we look at, what homes are as a portion of our greenhouse gas emissions in the country. And I think it's somewhere around 20%. Is homes and buildings. And so, I mean, if we can, reduce that by even a fraction of a percent, that, through, a program that is hopefully going to be cash positive to government revenue. I mean, that to me, that sounds like a no-brainer.
Yes. I think it was a smart way to spend money without spending it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
The loan is a hand up, not a handout.
Oh, the loan definitely is a very, very smart way to spend it. The grant, I think, I'm not sure of the specific details of the grant entirely. I mean, we've read through some of the preliminary stuff, but
us too.
Most of the projects are going to be likely more than $5,000. So there's going to be a portion that's contributed by the homeowner as well. And I mean, when we're talking about the solar, like if they're doing a solar system, they're going to look at spending $15,000 or $20,000 and getting $5,000 of that rebated. And
they can start. Yeah. I can do a solar system for 5G and under.
Yeah.
And they can have a renewable system that they can work on over time. Yeah. I'm just saying that there is a way to utilize the grant without spending a lot of extra money, but we should say this grant is you have to pay it first and then you submit your documents after. That is the way of the grant, which is fine. So you do have to kind of have it or borrow it in order to get your money back from the government, which is fairly typical of most government programs, I would have to say.
Most are a rebate form,
Yeah.
Very rarely they give you cash up front unless it's like rebate at point of sale, right? So sometimes the rebate will go through the contractor. So like some of the programs that Manitoba Hydro's had or Efficiency Manitoba has had, where the rebate goes through the contractor. I think they're moving away from that, because it becomes more difficult to manage. But it definitely is helpful to people if they don't ever have to put the money out. And I think that's why those efficiency programs were designed like that, where the rebate can go through the contractor and the contractor can pass the rebate off to you and then get paid from the the government agency. But it leaves a lot in the hands of the contractor. And I think that, has become a bit of an issue for some of those agencies, and they're trying to move away from that. So
I agree. Being on the end of one of those kind of scenarios, I definitely don't want to see that. I want an even playing field for all companies, and I don't think we should be assigning any of that type of stuff. It's not a rebate; it's a grant, and you have to spend the money up front to get what you want.
I mean, I guess the one consideration there is that it may put some low-income homeowners out of the running for it, but hopefully that that loan that they're offering will bridge whatever gap is there. So I mean, maybe
I think that might be the intention.
Yeah, which is fantastic, right? Like, I mean, if they can provide a $5,000 grant, that's a huge incentive, and then they can find a way through that loan to make it work for all homeowners, because low-income homeowners are often burdened with electric furnaces and poor insulation and some of these things that end up costing them more in the long run, which hurts them more. So if there's a way for them to bridge that gap and make it a more equitable program, then I think that's a huge advantage.
Absolutely. We're gonna have to take a small sponsor break here, Daniel, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna discuss this more. I can't get over how all-encompassing this really is, which is so good for so many industries, especially a lot of companies are hurting in Manitoba. So I'm looking forward to discussing that more when we come right back after the break.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right. I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance. Quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet? Keep your tills running and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-800.
Hey, and we're back after the break. Episode 19. Wow. Daniel and I, so Daniel from PowerTech and me, Lorena Mitchell from Evolve Green, are discussing this new Canadian Green Homes Energy Grant because it is just amazing. Welcome back there, Daniel, after the break. So I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around all the different industries this is going to be impacting. It really is. But we should also state this is not for new homes. This is for existing homes, primary residences only. I'm getting a lot of questions on whether or not it's for a cabin or whether or not a new build will qualify. So cabins do not qualify unless it's becoming your primary residence. Also, the other thing to note here with this is there actually is another component for reserves as well. So like if you live on like banned land, there is actually another component for you. I did get a chance to read all of it. Daniel, did you have a chance to peek at that one?
Yeah, I did actually. So I guess the original portion of the grant states that you have to be the homeowner. And because, in First Nations community, the community-owned housing, there is the ability for the community to take advantage of the grant for all of their homes, as, the community as the owner to take advantage of for their members to live in. So I think that was part of the government's plan to make it, again, fair and equitable to everybody. And I know there's even, I believe, for remote and northern. So if I believe the stipulation was that they needed to be not grid connected. And so for the, off-grid communities, diesel powered communities, I believe they said there was an additional 30% available for those remote and northern communities.
I saw that too. I wasn't sure how that was going to be applicable. But I was really excited about it though, because these guys have already got stuff in place. So this could really give them a much smoother running system or update their systems.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, to be fair, like, you know, when you're talking about, you know, some of the territories in the northern communities, that 30% additional is likely not even enough to make up the difference in cost working up there, because the economies, everything is so expensive to ship. So I think the government really did, you know, think about it thoughtfully and say, okay, well, we need to acknowledge that there's, you know, additional costs when we're doing retrofits in, say, the Northwest Territories or you know, far northern Manitoba community, and, you know, shipping costs alone could probably, you know, cost 30%, you know, that additional 30% that they're willing to give with the grants. So
yeah, that makes sense too.
I mean, they offered something, but, you know, it still probably doesn't even put them on a level playing field with what they offered.
No, not really. And I know that there was stuff for the energy advisor side of this as well, to make it like a part that they could go for to help incorporate the northern communities, so that it, I guess, created that even playing field, right? Because I was reading through the different spots on that grant, and that's for companies. And they can, because they identified that there could be the energy advisor company that needs to make this more accessible for the northern community. And there's actually a grant for that piece. Like, so that.
Yeah, and I think it was like a mentorship portion or something where the company could, I may be incorrect here, I just breezed through it, but.
There is a mentorship one, but there's actually an access to northern communities one too. That was another 100,000.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I think the key would be, you know, being able to train people in the community to do these energy audits, because, you know, what they're granting for the energy audits is going to be cost prohibitive for remote communities.
And I really like, and for me personally, I really like the thought of getting people trained in those communities, right? So that they can do that. For me, it's great because you're creating income within the community that stays in the community. Anytime somebody makes money in a community and they spend their money in the community, and it grows the community.
Yeah, it'll be a capacity building exercise. And I mean, you know, we all know that, you know, northern communities, the housing has always been an issue, and, you know, poorly built, inefficient houses are
absolutely
a huge ongoing cost to the community. So having somebody there that can, you know, help address some of those issues is important. You know?
I agree with you 100%. I like it's a well thought out process. I even the application, I went in and did the application for the Greener Homes program, because I wanted to see how easy is this, how doable is this? Because I've been involved in you know, government processes before where the application process itself is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And you know,
how is this one? I don't think we've put an application in yet, but how?
Yes, it was really simple. So all you need is your roll number, like your plan number off of your property tax.
Okay.
And then you take a picture of your driver's license, and it just has to match. Like they go in the back and match those two things, and your name and your address and those kinds of things, and that's it. It does a verification, sends to your email, you click back, and then it's all set up and submitted. It literally took me like 10 minutes. 10 minutes tops. Was not hard at all.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, some of the grants through the, especially through the federal government, I find, you know, the local efficiency programs, they've done a fairly good job of streamlining their applications to make it, you know, not incredibly cumbersome, but some of the federal programs have been, you know, challenging to say the least in terms of, you know, meeting all the requirements and then, you know, submitting documentation and then extra documentation and then additional documentation.
And it accepted JPEGs. So, you know, you could just take the picture with your phone. Oh, I know I got an ugly phone cover. Look at that, guys. You know why? Because I had one of those wallet kinds, but I still needed the protector. And, it's COVID time. So I didn't bother to order one in. I had gone into the dollar store for this one and I could only find one and it didn't work properly for me. So I ripped it off. So all I have is this plastic protector. I know. So I'm living with an ugly phone cover, but you know what? I can't waste it because I already bought it and that's sort of me. So
yeah.
Maybe I'll paint it.
Yeah.
So how much solar do you have on your house? You just mentioned.
10 kilowatts.
Nice. I have 10 total too.
Yeah. And it's not ideal. My house slope is east-west facing. So it's unfortunate. But I have basically as much as I could fit on the backside of my house. I've put it out. I've noticed quite a reduction from what I would expect to see. Because I have two different slopes on that face, and what you would typically see on a south-facing, like ideally sloped roof, I'm probably down about 25 to 30% based on being east-west with the slopes that I have. So if it wasn't installed at a very good price, then it would be harder for me to justify putting it on that slope. But
well, also, didn't you get a 20-year contract?
No. So.
Are you kidding me, Daniel?
So I have, I moved during that program. And so I actually have solar on my old house too, which is a rental property now. So I have solar on that property, which has the 20-year
more. Okay.
And then mine, I put in right towards the end of the rebate program. So I think my agreement's up in 2023. So.
See, my house has the 20-year agreement on the grid tie stuff, and of course the off-grid doesn't matter. But I did build a garage. Now I have a good south face because right now my solar is sitting on a west.
Yes.
So, but it has a better 512 pitch on it, directly south. So I'm going to put that grid tie stuff over there.
Yeah.
And then because I can't increase the size or do anything with it because of the contract. But the ground mounted stuff is all like at an 80-degree angle, more because it's an off grid and more for, winter, to help it snow shed and stuff. Yeah. But over at the office, I didn't get a 20-year contract. I only got a 5 because of when we bought it. And same like you. Yeah. So we have a 10 kilowatt ground mount over at the office as well. And that one's direct grid tie. Can I ask you which inverter you used?
So I have 3 different inverters actually. So I have actually 4 different inverter brands. So my rental property, I have a Solar Edge system.
Okay.
My house, I have a AP microinverter system.
Okay.
At our office, we have a Fronius for the grid tie, and then a Schneider XW Pro for the
battery backup,
DC coupled portion of the system. So yeah, we have a few different inverter brands.
Well, what's funny is when I use the I put a Fronius on my house. Mm-hmm. And so it's all one direction, all west. So there was no complication, no shadowing or anything like that. But I just lose everything in the winter. It's totally not worth it. I would have done an AP if I had. But at the time, I wanted to see because we had only ever done string inverters on ground mounts up until that time, and we were seeing a lot of our competition put in these string inverters on roof mounts and complicated shadowing. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to see, how good is it? I really find the AP blows it away on a roof.
It definitely does.
But it doesn't on a ground mount.
No, then that's exactly it. And that's sort of our strategy is that for roof mount, we almost always do microinverters. Ground mount is always string inverters. The only exception to that, I would say, is if the roof is completely unshaded at the ideal pitch, then you could consider going with a string inverter.
Yeah, because the string inverters are cheaper. Absolutely. You're spending premium dollars on those micros.
Yeah, and I would say if if you're going, micro and string inverter down, there's a lot more points of failure with microinverters. right? So, instead of having one thing to change out if it fails, you've got, multiple little ones. So, I mean,
yeah, but that's from the company perspective. From the owner's perspective, like I know on my AP, if one little guy fails, I got 2 panels out. I'm not so unhappy and I can wait for my warranty. I'm really agitated when that string inverter is out because now I got a whole section out.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, like I said, especially on roofs with like multiple angles or pitches, I mean, string inverter or microinverters really are the only solution there. But yeah, no, you definitely, if your roof has any different, different angles, different, pitches at all different directions, you definitely want to have a microinverter system. But
absolutely, I agree with you 100%. But I always get that question, oh, what does the company themselves install on their own roofs? And it's multiple actually. So, and I did it opposite because my ground mount has an AP and my roof mount has the Fronius, and then I have AC coupled into the back. I actually have a Magnum because you don't need a grid tie inverter for that. So that's for my battery backup. I mean, that's what I chose to do. But I mean, like people always ask that question. I did it in reverse because my mind is going to whatever I'm trying to fashion out if it's actually worthy for my customer to go ahead and do. I don't use my customer as guinea pig. I like to
exactly.
I guinea pig myself, just like we're doing panel warmers to remove snow. We've got several of them and we have a couple of customers that have helped us out, plus our own systems for, pitch, angle, temperature versus power out. We're trying to still figure
when that becomes worthwhile, right? I guess would be the question, right? Because that's
exactly
a common one that comes up is, oh, can we melt the snow off using the solar? And I said, well, you could, but you might end up putting power, more power than you're producing to melt your snow, right? So
and how intense is the heat? Like we're using carbon flats to do it, and that's our latest wave. Well, we're in research and development with that, but I mean,
I was going to say, yeah, that's I haven't seen anybody offering it like commercially, and that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't played around with it. It's not something that we typically,
right from the beginning of Evolve Green, though, we've always played with lots of different things with research and development. It was part of the learning curve of what we do. That doesn't mean we're going to sell it. It just means that we're trying to understand it. In some cases, right? So, sometimes we see, perpetual motion things way back in the day. And I even have one of those Stirling engines.
Okay. Yeah.
Where you can focus the light, focus sun beam onto the Stirling, and it moves.
Okay.
So, creating energy. That was something out in Germany they were doing with much larger ones. I have like a model scale one. I mean, it's just because we also did a whole kids section as well. So making batteries and going to the schools and teaching about all of that different stuff. So it's actually just fun, right? When we have all the testing equipment for, is the water getting warmer or isn't it getting warmer? How much energy is happening so they can see it all real time. It's really good.
Definitely. Yeah.
So that's all fun. Anyways, here in Manitoba, I really see us getting stronger. But one of the things I wanted to mention, I like the way this happened because it's not going to create new companies.
No, it's not a generous enough program that it would be worth, moving from out of town to capitalize. And I mean, it is across the country, so you can play in your own backyard no matter where you live.
Yes.
And it's not a generous enough program that it's going to get, massive uptake and, have to create a whole bunch of new companies doing this. No. Companies that already exist and have experience will have an uptick in business, which is fantastic. They'll be able to
hire their people back.
Yeah.
This is about putting Canadians back to work. This is about actually investing in Canadian people themselves and communities directly, which then, of course, the money gets spent directly back into those communities. Maybe some of those little restaurants will start opening again. I've been driving around Manitoba doing site visits and stuff like that. I can tell you that it's bad. It's really bad. And even, have you taken a drive down Osborne Village? I saw so many places boarded up and gone. I know it's just the way of pandemic. There's only so long you can last with no dollars.
Yeah.
But I saw like really long-lasting companies that were doing very well before pandemic, or at least on the way it looked to me, and they're gone, absolutely gone.
Yeah, Osborne's had trouble with that for a while. I mean, they have high rents, so if you've got generating no revenue and have high overhead, I mean, the math is pretty simple. It doesn't take long before you're out of business. So it's
something like this gets the economy going, though, in all of these different places. So I'm really excited for the federal Greener Home Program. Everybody, I entreat you, go on there and get yours. Daniel, do you have a link on your site as well?
I'm not sure if we have a link up yet, but we definitely have a lot of people just filling out the contact on our site as requested. So, I mean, you're welcome to do that. And
so on the show, guys, on the description for the show, I have Daniel's Webby information. I have Evolve Green's information, and I also have the Canadian Greener Home Grant application link as well for your convenience. So I entreat you all to go and take a think on what could really benefit your home for any kind of energy upgrade. And then if you're here in Manitoba, you can give Daniel or I a call and find out what's going on, or guess the contact form on yours as well.
Yep.
Excellent. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Daniel's going to be joining me down the road, and we're going to talk specifically more about PowerTech and what they're planning for this season. And then, so we'll be back in not the next episode, but I think coming soon. We said within a month or so, right?
Yep. Sounds great.
Excellent. Well, I'll love to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's it for episode 19, talking all about the new Canadian Greener Home grant, which is just amazing. The federal government had just released it, so we're really excited. If you want more information, it is in the description. You can definitely go there. You can contact Daniel over at PowerTech on his powertech.ca, or go to evolvegreen.ca. I have a convenient link right under the banner for you there as well. And that's it for today. Have a sunny, sunny day.